Hello, how are you doing? It's nice to have you on the program again today, the Youth Arena. And like I will always say, it's always very exciting to be here in this program because we get to learn a lot, things that we can apply directly into our day-to-day activities and relationship with people around us, and most especially things that will help us grow our leadership influence. We've been on this series for a while now, how to grow your leadership influence. We've been learning a number of things. We've learned the factor that has to do with having faith in people and how to do that, integrity and how to prioritize integrity and become a person of integrity. And we've been on the series on listening, the art of listening, how to listen and how to become a better listener. We've talked about why listening is important. And today we're going to be talking about barriers to listening and how to deal with them, of course. So we're going to be pinpointing a number of them. They might not be all there is to, they might not be all there is as barriers to listening, but we're going to point a number of them that we think, or I think, is rampant. Okay, so we're going to deal with those ones, and we trust that as these ones are being enumerated, you'll be able to identify what it is that hinders your own listening ability, and then we'll deal with it, prefer solution from our own end, and trust that you will also get ideas sparked off from you on how to deal with those things so that you can become an effective listener. Okay, in the last episode, we pointed out the importance of listening and how it applies to every aspect of our day-to-day activities in our relationship with people we are leading, and all of that. It's important across every sphere of life. So it's something you have to take seriously, whether you're a preacher, whether you are a CEO, whether you are, a leader in one capacity or the other, and whether you have a portfolio or not, a leadership portfolio or not. Maybe one of these days we'll still discuss on the levels of influence, like John Maxwell rightly researched and put it down on paper. We're going to be discussing that. That's when you discover that position is the lowest form of leadership influence. So you don't pride yourself in titles. Titles do not make you a leader. Your leadership position and your effectiveness as a leader is what adds value to the title. People can respect you because of your title, but that simply means that when you are done with handling that particular portfolio, you step down and you become as ordinary as you've always been. Or, you've just been hiding yourself under the covering of positional leadership. So it's very important. What we're discussing is going to help you across board, whether as a spiritual leader or whether as a secular leader. But most importantly, our emphasis is that you as a Christian, you as a child of God, will be able to adopt these things in order to better affect and impact the people God has brought under your leadership. So we're going to pick up right there, and we'll see how far we can go in this episode. Barriers to effective listening, okay? Now, it's important to understand that if you aren't as skilled at listening as you would like to be, then the first thing you need to do is to identify common barriers and how to deal with them. That's the beginning of the solution to your listening challenges. You have to identify common barriers, and then you can work around how to deal with them. That's why we are here. That's why we're having this episode. That's why we're having this session, so that you'll be able to have your eyes open to the barriers and how to deal with them. What are some of these barriers? Number one of the barriers we've observed is most people overvalue talking. Most people talk a lot, especially the people in the space of being sanguines and all of that, the character traits of sanguines, like researchers have put down and all. They talk a lot. Some of them even value talking more than listening, and that's a problem. If your value is on talking more than it is on listening, then that's already a barrier to your effective listening. You won't be able to listen. I don't know, you might have observed, but you don't talk and listen at the same time. You must be doing one at every particular time. So if you overvalue talking, if your emphasis is on talking, you are going to miss it. You are not going to be an effective listener all the way, okay? So I wrote down here, I said most people will choose speaking more persuasively and becoming better public speakers over the ability to listen better if they are asked how they could improve their communication skills. So communication, being effective in your communication skills is not just about your ability to speak. your ability to persuade people, your ability to convince them, your ability to talk and get people listening to you for hours and all of that. Is there anything wrong with that? No, it has its own place. Okay, but we're talking about your ability to listen and to harness the power embedded in listening. If you must be an effective listener, you have to deal with the barrier that is a mental barrier that has to that overvalues talking as against listening. So it's a challenge that must be dealt with. So most people overvalue talking and undervalue listening. But in actual fact, effective communication is more in listening than in persuasion. You could refer back to our last episode where we spoke about a number of reasons why listening is important. When you listen to people, you increase knowledge. Okay? You get to have facts that will enable you communicate better. So there's no point being more interested in talking than you are in listening, whereas the tools, the equipments you need to communicate better is found in listening. It's found in listening. Even if you're a preacher, sometimes when you're interacting with people or interacting with your members or your congregation, as the case may be, you are better able to minister to them. You are better able to minister to them. And in the workspace and all of that, when you listen to people who are your employees, you are better able to serve them. And in serving them, there's this atmosphere you create in the organization where everybody wants to contribute positively to the cause that is being pursued, for the benefit of the organization and all of that. In the same vein, when we listen to our customers, still in the organizational setting or in the product and service setting, when you listen to your customers, listen to their complaints, listen to their commendations and all of these things, you are better able to extract ideas on how to serve them better. So listening is key. We must learn to value listening above talking. Why? Because whatever it is you are going to say, if you don't have the facts, if you don't have your figures, if you don't have the equipment and the tools with which to communicate better to meet the need, you wouldn't be able to meet that need. You'll be doing more harm than good to whoever you are talking to. So we listen more than we talk. Now, I wrote down here, I said, good communication always monitors their talking, good communicators always monitor their talking ratios to their listening ratio. You listen more than you talk. You listen more than you talk. I wrote down here, I said, you must learn to listen twice as much as you speak. Learn to listen twice as much as you speak. Learn to listen twice as much as you speak. Very, very important. The whole emphasis is on talking less and listening more. Okay, now very quickly, the second barrier we've discovered to effective listening is lack of focus. Lack of focus. Most people are very, very distracted whenever they are talking to others or whenever people are talking to them, rather. Listening, it stops people from effectively listening. Now, for some people, especially those with high energy expressed in multitasking, slowing down enough to really listen can be challenging. Maybe you are that kind of person. I don't know whether you've wondered why some people, anytime you want to talk to them, that's when they remember that there's something they've not done or there's something they need to do, and then they go right straight to the computer doing what they're doing and say, just keep talking, I'm listening. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense. You don't feel valued. You don't feel like the person actually takes you seriously and whatever it is you have to say. But most people lack focus, and that's a barrier to effective communication. Maybe somebody is talking to you and you are pressing your phone, maybe on IG, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on whatever social media platform, or doing any other thing, playing games and all of that. And then you just tell the person, just keep talking, I'm listening. Just keep talking. The person doesn't feel you are taking him seriously or you are taking her seriously. And it's a very huge barrier to our listening, growing our listening skills or becoming better listeners. Okay. Now, if you want to become a better listener, however, you must learn how to direct that energy and attention positively by concentrating on the person you are with. Look at the person. Keep down what you are doing. That alone communicates, I take you seriously and I value whatever you're going to say. I value you as a person and I take you seriously and I'm here for you. I'm here for you. These are little things, very, very salient points and tips that most people miss. They miss it totally because they don't know these things. So lack of focus is a barrier, but it's not a problem without a solution. It's not a problem without a solution. So learn to give your undivided attention to the person you are talking with. It could be tough. Sometimes you have a number of things to do around, and here is somebody you value so much or you profess to love wanting to talk to you about something, or and you just have to listen. You have to listen to the person, because you communicate value, you communicate care, you communicate love to the person. Now, in focusing your attention on the person, you must observe body languages, watch for changes in facial expression, tonal changes too. Look into the person's eyes. There's something about looking into the eyes of the person you are talking to, or the eyes of the person who is talking to you. You have an overview, you have a full view of the person's facial expression. You are just looking at the eyes, but somehow you are seeing every other thing the person is reacting to. Okay? And this is very important, because if you deal with ladies, if you have ladies as friends, or you are married, or you have ladies who are close to you, sometimes they can appear to be very, very controversial in terms of attitude and all of that. They can appear to be complex. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, but if you tend to understand some of these things, you'll be able to relate with them better. For instance, you are married, and then you tell your wife, sweetheart, I'm not going to be around this night. I'll be hanging out with the boys. And she doesn't want you to go. She just says, okay. You say, are you okay with it? He said, yes, I'm fine with it. I'm fine. That alone already tells you that there's a problem. It already tells you that there's a problem. So you must learn to observe all these things. You can only discover these little points if you focus on the person who is talking with you, or the person you are talking to. Okay? Observe body languages, watch for changes in facial expression, tonal changes too, look into the person's eyes, and all of that. You will not miss it if you give attention to the person who is talking to you. Okay? Now, I wrote here, I said a very important aspect of listening is to hear what isn't being said. Focus makes this possible. People say one thing and they mean another thing. Sometimes it could be because maybe expectations. I feel you should know that this is how I will react to this thing and all of that. So they give you an opposite answer to what you are asking, probably what they feel you want to hear, whereas they expect that you already know what their answers should be. For instance, somebody in a relationship, or people who are in a relationship, the man or the lady assumes that I don't like coming back late. So the other person just says, I'll be coming back by 10 p.m. Hope it's okay with you. Says, yes, it's okay. That answer is not genuine. The person, if you observe, if you are attentive, if you listen to the person's, what the person isn't saying, you'll be able to understand that it's not the right answer. That's not what the person actually means. The person means the opposite. Okay, but we miss some of these points, and we get into trouble in our relationships, both with our superiors and with people who we say we profess love to, people who we are in a relationship with, or things like that. So it's very important. Learn to hear what people are not saying, because there are always things people are not saying, even though they say either they give you half truths, or they give you an exact opposite of what they actually need or what they actually mean. You must be sensitive enough to pick that and focus on the person who is talking to you. Makes that possible. Now, if you expend extra energy observing the other person closely and interpreting what he or she says, your listening skills will improve dramatically. One major issue we have with improving our listening skills, which is a barrier, is that most times we are selfish. It's always about what we have to say. Hope you've heard what I said. It's not about what is your opinion, how does it affect you, how does it make you feel. That's where you are observant about all these expressions we are talking about from the other person. It takes a selfless person to be observant. It's nothing you can't achieve as a leader. Why? Because you need these things to become effective. You need these things to grow your listening skills. And when your listening skills are in place and they are top-notch, your leadership influence increases. So weigh it. You actually have nothing to lose if you learn these things and apply it. Okay? So we've talked about the barrier of overvaluing talking more than valuing listening, which is a barrier. And we've also talked about the barrier of lack of focus. When somebody is talking to you, you should focus on the person. Don't be distracted. As much as possible, avoid being distracted. Maybe you are talking with somebody on the phone, somebody who you are supposed to give attention to, and then, you are talking to the person and you are chatting on WhatsApp. And sometimes you catch yourself laughing over what you are chatting, and the person on the other end of the line is wondering, is it that I didn't know I've become basket mouth? Like the person is wondering, what did I say that is making this one laugh? I say, oh, sorry. Your attention is divided, and once that is the case, the person feels you don't care, you don't value me, and you don't respect me. Maybe that's not what it is to you, but that's actually how most people perceive it. So lack of focus is a barrier. Overvaluing talking is a barrier. Another barrier to listening effectively is mental fatigue. I'll explain what it means. This is usually caused by exhaustion, extended period of work, sleep deprivation, and all of that. You've done a lot of work, whether mental or physical, that you are tired, you are exhausted. And then somebody wants to come and talk to you, or you still fix a meeting to talk with somebody. You wouldn't be effective. Now, what's the remedy to this? Learn to take out time to rest. Learn to take out time to rest. When you are mentally fatigued and you have, people come around to you to listen to, for you to listen to them, talk to them and all of that, it's tough to get the best out of you at that particular point in time. So if you are tired or facing difficult circumstances, which you could also add to the mental fatigue, difficult circumstances and all, then learn to deliberately take some time to rest. Rest very well, so you can be able to give your best to the people who are around you, so that you can give your best to them. Now, sometimes we also catch ourselves talking to people who are in this kind of situation. We have burdens to offload and all of that, and then the person we go to talk to is tired. We as people should also learn. Remember, the key word here is being selfless. Usually, everything shouldn't be about you. You should be sensitive enough to see that this one, he's not looking fine. Even though you have your own challenges and all, also learn to ask, how far? Hope you are fine. You need some rest, or get some rest. We'll talk some other time. Except maybe it can't wait. Okay? So we should be considerate of people in order to get the best out of whatever we expect to get from them, talking to them so that they can listen and all of that. Then, like I said, when you're mentally fatigued, don't throw yourself into more work. Get some rest so that people don't see you as a monster without knowing that, your challenge is coming from somewhere that is not them. Okay? Very, very important. So mental fatigue could be a barrier to listening, and it must be dealt with by getting enough rest. Get enough rest. All right. Now, the next barrier we see that most people are victims of, very, very important. The next barrier there is what we call stereotyping. Stereotyping. When I explain it, you will understand. Maybe you've been there or you've seen people who are there from time to time. What does it mean? This can be a huge barrier to listening. It tends to make us hear what we expect rather than what another person is actually saying. So when stereotype becomes a challenge, it is that situation where somebody is talking and you are not actually hearing what the person is saying. You are hearing either what you've already preconceived or what you want the person to say. And, you are not just hearing what the person is saying. You are not just hearing. Your mind is fixed on what the answer should be or what the situation should turn out to be and all of that. And then whatever the person is saying, you are not hearing the person at all. I think I've been in such situations some time ago where, a number of times actually, where somebody is talking and I already have a preconceived notion that this thing you are saying will not work. So even if the person gives 1001 reasons that make sense why it will not work, because my mind is already blocked to that situation, I already have an answer I've projected, spirit, soul, and body, that's what it's going to turn out to be. You find out that it's very, very hard for you to accept whatever the person is saying. So you have a preconceived notion, and that's not effective. It's a barrier. It's a mental barrier that should be dealt with. Now, whenever you treat people strictly as members of a group rather than as individuals, you will get into trouble of not listening, and you will actually end up misunderstanding them. A perfect example is when you hear people say, all men are dogs. That's a preconceived notion. Are all men really dogs? Like, seriously, including your father? Like, I don't understand. Come on. Don't worry, we'll continue from here when we come back. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Hi there, you're welcome. All right, now, before we went on a very short break, we were talking about preconceived notions as a limitation, a barrier to effective listening. And just like I rightly pointed out before we went on the break, that most people actually think, they talk on the general, all men are dogs, all men are cheaters, all men cheat, all ladies are loose, every lady likes money, general statements that form preconceived notion in their minds, which shouldn't be. Okay, so you must learn to deal with this barrier called stereotyping. Learn to treat people as individuals. Learn to treat people as individuals. In a space like Nigeria, when you come into Nigeria, there are people who think that people from a particular state or a particular locality do not make good wives. Now, as much as we might have seen recurrent evidences to whatever statements they are making boldly, it doesn't justify the fact that it's still not 100% true. And when you accept such mindsets, such biases, such stereotypes, you discover that you tend to look at every other lady that comes from, you tend to look at every lady that comes from that state or that locality with the same eye. And in most cases, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. There are people who are different in that state. They might not be all, they might not be as many as have disappointed. But even in reality check, have you met with every lady from that state? Have you? Have you met with every man from that locality? Have you met with every man on the surface of the earth that you are bold enough to make such a statement that all men are this, all women from here are this, and all of that? Stereotype. And when you see people in that, dealing with people from such environments, their minds are already biased. So whatever you are saying to them does not matter. You are saying one thing, they are hearing another thing. Saying one thing, they are hearing another thing. Now, that leads me to the next thing I want to talk about. The next thing. What's the next barrier that most people encounter in relating with people and in listening effectively? Now, I called it personal emotional baggages. Emotional baggage. This is another very strong one. Very, very strong. Now, nearly everyone has emotional filters that prevent him or her from hearing certain things other people say. Things like past experiences, both positive and negative, color the way we look at life and shape our expectations. Of course, traumas from childhood, incidences, and all of that can make you tend to react strongly whenever you perceive you are in a similar situation and all of that. For instance, I know a person who has phobia for boiler. The phobia is too much. What happened? When she was very young, I think I've been in that space, but God just helped me. I had a way of overcoming it. I remember some time ago I plugged a long while ago, plugged water to the boiler and all of that, and then I didn't know how I just forgot that electricity was flowing through the water and all of that. So I wanted to check whether the water was already heated up, and wham, hand inside the bucket and all of that. The shock would not be here. Like it was mind resetting. And after that I started observing that I started developing phobia for boiler and all of that. But gradually things phased away and all. But this particular person, anything boiler is not for her at all. The phobia is there. Now, even if you are telling her, no, this socket is off. And even though the socket is off, but the boiler is still plugged to the socket wall and all of that, but the socket is off, no electricity flowing through and all of that, is still not a go-go, no matter how persuasive you are. So that's that's a past experience that has colored the person's emotions, and the person is reacting to whatever, and nothing you say actually breaks through. A lot of persons are in that space where perhaps their hearts have been broken over time by men who profess to love them and all of that, and then another person from who doesn't even know what your past is, perhaps a clean record, perhaps a good guy, is a 50-50 stuff anyway until further proven right and righteous. But even at that, you don't treat people as members of a group based on your experiences or the people you've seen and all of that. You treat them as individuals. Most times the people we think, in fact, personally in Nigeria, there's a particular group of persons from a particular state that the story has been how bad they are, how promiscuous and all of that. I'm not going to mention names. You are at liberty to guess as much as you want. But on my own side, personal experience, the ladies from that area that I've encountered are the best ladies I've met in my life. So we have varying experiences. What am I saying? You could be wrong. I could be wrong too. You could be right. I could be right too. But let's not use let's not generalize in dealing with people. Deal with people as individuals, and you're able to get the best out of them. You're able to get the best out of them. If everybody you've met is bad, my brother, my sister, you need to really, really observe. You need to repent and be baptized. How come it's only the bad ones you attract? That's a story for another day. Okay, so a lot of persons have personal emotional baggages that color their experience. As a leader, you must learn to put these things aside, God helping you. Because you don't, it's going to be very terrible if that's the basis, if that's the coloration to your sense of listening or how you judge matters and all of that. It's really, really not going to be nice. You're not going to be effective as a leader if that's the case. Okay? So some people carry around traumas and all of that. If you've been traumatized, please get help. Don't pride on it as, that's who I am, that's who I've become, and all of that. There's a better side of you to what you are currently experiencing. God is there to help you, especially when you are a leader. Especially when you are a leader. You don't lash out on people just because of what you've been through and all of that. Don't lash out on them. And then you're able to listen to people better when these things are dealt with, so that you don't view people from your lens of experiences and all of that, especially when they are negative. It's even better when it's on the positive angle. At least you inspire people in the power of positivity and all of that. But when it's negative, there's always another side to negativity, and that is being positive. And that's the side all of us should stay at as leaders in order to inspire the people God has brought under our leadership. Very, very important. Very, very important. So far, we've talked about a number of barriers. Overvaluing talking and undervaluing listening. That's a very huge barrier that should be corrected. Secondly, we talked about lack of focus. Another very, very bad barrier that should be dealt with. You should be able to focus on the person that is talking to you and all of that. Observe body languages, observe everything that needs to be observed, facial expressions and all of that. Then we also talked about mental fatigue. Mental fatigue as a result of exhaustion, overworking yourself, being awake throughout the night and all of that. Then there's a way to deal with these things. Get rest. And you could even postpone some meetings because you are tired. You mustn't take every meeting. You mustn't listen to everybody every time and all of that. Especially if you are in a space where you deal with people. You are a pastor, you are in a space where you have control over when people can see you or when people cannot see you. Why do you need to do that? So that you can give them your best. Sometimes people might not understand, but you need to give them your best, so you are in a space to manage this thing. So mental fatigue could be a very huge barrier to effective listening for you as a leader, and it should be dealt with. Get rest and plan better, okay? Then the next thing we looked at is stereotyping. Stereotyping, and we explained it to mean people having preconceived notion about a matter, so that when you are even talking to them about it from a different light, they don't hear what you are saying, they don't see it from your own perspective. All they know is what they've already known. And people like that don't learn. Their minds are not open. Minds are not open at all. So it's very, very important that we put these things to heart. Then we also talked about personal emotional baggages. Personal emotional baggages. It should also be dealt with. If you need to see a therapist, okay? Very, very important. Whatever it will take, get these things out of your way so that you'll be able to listen effectively and maximize your leadership influence. Okay, lastly, before we round up, one other barrier that we must overcome in our listening journey, in our listening life, as we listen to people and all of that, is being preconceived with self. Being preconceived with self. I wrote here, I said, if you don't care about anyone but yourself, you are not going to listen to others. If all you care is about how it affects you, what will you gain, you know, and all of that. Me, myself, and I. You're not going to benefit others. You're not going to be a blessing to others in the act of listening to them. Okay? When you don't listen to others, the damage you do to yourself is ultimately greater than what you do to other people. So it's very important you take these things seriously. I trust that with these things we've been able to enumerate the barriers and all, and here and there solutions we've been able to proffer, you will become better in listening to people as a leader, so that you'll be able to maximize your leadership and become more effective, and most importantly, grow your leadership influence. Thank you very much for tuning in with us. Till I come your way next time, I remain KC Eze. Don't go looking for trouble. You know, listen to people better. Take time and listen to people. It pays more than it hurts. God bless you. See you next time.